The monitor at your desk is one of the biggest contributors to the quality of your gaming experience. Just a few years ago, the only considerations was how high of a refresh rate you could get, but now you have multiple different panel technologies to choose from, tons of resolutions and aspect ratios, and even insane 540Hz refresh rates. OLED, however, has been taking over the scene with insane response times, infinite contrast delivering deep, inky blacks, and blazing refresh rates. What's not to love? Every video on YouTube seems to praise OLED as the must-have monitor experience in 2024. But is it really all it's cracked up to be? I recently picked up the PG32UCDP from Asus, and today I'm diving into my experience with this monitor and OLED as a whole to see if it's truly worth putting on your desk. Asus currently makes two 32-inch OLED monitors, the PG32UCDM, which is a QD-OLED, and the one we're taking a look at today, the PG32UCDP, which is a WOLED monitor and the latest release. I'll be comparing both of these panels in more detail in an upcoming video, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss that content. The 4K resolution on this panel looks really great, and though previous iterations of OLED monitors have had some issues with text clarity, I can assure you that this looks every bit as good as my previous LCD panel. On top of this, the monitor is capable of 240Hz refresh rate, and with a spec sheet this good, it probably comes as no surprise that this thing is pretty expensive. The asking price currently for this panel is about $1,300 US.
Nani?
What makes OLED so special is the lack of a dedicated backlight. Traditional LCD monitors use a backlight to illuminate the screen, which can often create a hazy image when looking at darker content. OLED, however, has individually lit pixels, allowing these panels to create perfect separation between dark and light parts of the screen, as well as giving tons of detail in darker scenes. Combine that with the pixel response time of 0.03 milliseconds, and you've got a pretty special gaming experience. In bright scenes, I didn't notice the OLED really having any perceptible advantage over my LCD. However, as soon as I got into some night raids in Escape from Tarkov, I could see where OLED really shined. Using the FPS mode and the AI Shadow Boost feature takes an area of the game where I can't see anything and kind of unlocks some monitor cheats. It's hard to overstate how much of an advantage this is in games like Escape from Tarkov or Rainbow Six, where people lurking in the shadows can be hard to see. This is probably what sealed the deal for me as far as keeping this panel on my desk as my main monitor. The elephant in the room, or rather two elephants in the room, are screen coating and burn-in. We'll touch on burn-in in just a bit, but first let's talk about the screen. Being a WOLED display, the UCDP uses a matte coating, and if you've spent any time on YouTube or forums, you've probably heard people say that matte coatings are trash, and the only type of OLED considering uses glossy coatings. I'm not entirely convinced by this sentiment though. The coating on this screen really is nothing like matte coatings that used to come on TN and IPS panels, and similar to my LG monitor that I've been using for the past year, I'd categorize this more as a semi-gloss than a true matte. Yes, it's true that glossy coatings do make the image pop more on OLED displays, and I can attest to that, having been using both a QD-OLED as well as a WOLED on my desk for the last couple of weeks. But unless you're sitting with both panels side by side, I don't think that the difference between the glossy and the matte coating are something that you're gonna miss if you pick one or the other. What you do gain though with this display over the QD-OLED options that use a glossy coating is way better reflection handling. My home office has a pretty large window, and while I can control the light, sometimes working or gaming in a dungeon just isn't enjoyable, and this screen handles incoming light way better, making the experience just much more enjoyable. On top of that, being that I work from home, I found that actually working on the glossy QD-OLED screen was leading me to get headaches over time because my eyes were having a hard time focusing on the screen versus the reflections. I think that this is something that's often skipped over when people are reviewing these and they're just purely looking at the visual quality of the picture, but really when it comes to usability and the experience, I think that the matte screen is really the better way to go for most people. Burn-in is always a risk with OLED monitors, and Asus knows it. That's why they've packed this panel with a ton of preventative measures to help avoid it. But let's be real, The risk is still there. These OLED panels are still relatively new and we don't have a definitive answer on their lifespan just yet. The reality is, it's not a question of if burn-in panel degradation will happen, but when. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit concerned myself. With how expensive these panels are, the idea that in a year or two, the screen could suffer from permanent burn-in or loss of brightness is definitely something that crosses my mind. Fortunately, this panel does offer a 3-year burn-in warranty, which does help ease those worries, but Asus hasn't exactly been winning any awards with their warranty service lately. So while the warranty is reassuring, there still is a bit of doubt lingering in the back of my mind. If, like myself, you plan to use this panel for both work and play, the likelihood of burn-in seems like just an inevitability. One of the main features of this panel is the 480Hz mode. It does lock the resolution down to 1080p, but in a lot of titles, like Overwatch for instance, this loss of image quality doesn't impact the experience that much, but the motion clarity you gain running at this higher refresh rate is definitely something that feels like a competitive edge. This isn't a feature I see myself using a ton, but if I am playing ranked or want to get some sweaty games of Black Ops 6 in, this feature is pretty great. One thing you can do is utilize the aspect control feature that this screen has, where you can choose to render at 27 inches or 24 inches on the screen rather than the full 32. This improves the image quality of the 1080p mode, and since the panel is an OLED, the area around the outside of the screen is solid black, so it really gives the feeling that you are playing on a smaller screen. This also does come equipped with some crosshair and sniper modes. I didn't particularly find these to be useful for me, but your mileage may vary if these are features that you typically use. This monitor works great for both console as well as PC since it comes with 2 HDMI 2.1 ports as well as the DisplayPort 1.4. The panel also includes a USB-C port that can be used for both 90-watt charging on your laptop as well as a built-in KVM, which is useful for work from home to share peripherals between two computers. To wrap things up, the Asus PG32UCDP is an impressive monitor that showcases what OLED technology can bring to the table. Stunning 4K image, 240Hz, deep blacks, and incredibly fast response times really do make for a special gaming experience. Its matte coating may not have the glossy pop that some OLED enthusiasts crave, but the practical benefits of the reduced reflections in brighter environments are really hard to ignore. It isn't without its trade-offs though, since the overall brightness is lacking compared to a standard LCD, and the potential for burn-in is something that is hard to ignore. I have enjoyed using this monitor though a ton, and it will be staying on my desk as my main monitor. I'll keep you posted if and when I start noticing burn-in, but so far so good with 350 hours clocked. If you are looking to elevate your gaming experience, I can certainly recommend the PG32UCDP.